I'm Courtney. I am the producer of Outlander Behind the Scenes. I love the books. I love the show. I'm a fan of both. And I love discussing the similarities and the differences. I enjoy writing about everything that surrounds the show. That's why I started my blog. And tonight we are discussing episode 507, The Ballad of Roger Mack.
I'm Carmen, and I write the Outlander Anatomy blog, and I love the books and the show. I use both as a platform by which I can deliver lessons and fun facts about human anatomy. And it works pretty well. There's a lot of people surprisingly interested in the topic, especially if the model is somebody very nice looking from the show. And tonight I'm drinking honey chamomile tea.
Okay. I'm Catherine. I am a family physician who enjoys both the books and the show. I started reading the books and watching the show at about the same time, so I enjoy them equally. And I also write for Blacklanders as well. And I am having in my mason jar with the straw, my Tennessee honey whiskey and soda with lime.
Wow. Sounds yummy.
We heard that they might be closing liquor stores, so we went and got a little.
My name is Antoinette. I love the show, and I'm in the process of rereading the books and falling in love all over again with how Diana uses words. It is just like falling into a different world, and I am enjoying it immensely. Tonight, I am drinking a light beer.
Well,
because I love me some beer. So, bottoms up.
Cheers.
Bottoms up. And I'm drinking electrolytes and water again.
They're so boring.
I know. I just have to be right now.
So,
my overall impression of this episode is I believe this episode will probably be the best one of of season 5. I enjoyed it so much. I was completely sucked into it. I thought it was excellent. And I think it'll be like a standout, you know, the way that 304 of Lost Things from season 3 for me stands out. 207 Faith from season 2 stands out. 107 The Wedding from season 1. And, you know, 2 of those that I mentioned were written by Tony Graffia, who wrote this episode. So anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I give it a 5 out of 5. I thought it was just excellent.
I also tip my hat to Tony. I thought this was extraordinarily well written. But I also tip my hat to Wolfenden. Is that the director's name?
Stephen
he did
Wolfenden.
A good job on the photography and the action and the intimacy, you know, different emotions that occurred on the screen. So I would give it an excellent 5-star or, you know, an A.
I thought this was fantastic. It was just absolutely fantastic. One of the best by far. I actually watched it for the first time with my daughter, and she said, wow, this is more like watching a movie than watching a TV show. And I thought, yeah, that's how it felt. It felt like on that caliber, but a high budget movie.
Mm-hmm. This episode made me bust out my happy dance.
Oh, good.
It was that.
Okay, that sounds a little. Talk about orgasmic.
Listen to me. Okay. No, listen. I love this episode so much. I would let it get me pregnant.
That I call a commitment.
Happy dance. Happy dance. My show is back. Yes. The excellence that we know they're capable of. They just hit us upside the head with it. And I loved every minute.
Favorite scenes, Catherine?
Oh, hard. It's like asking you to pick your favorite child. There were so many. But I would say that my favorite scene was when Jamie brought Murtagh into the tent with Claire and was begging her to do something. I mean, it was sad, but it was so well acted and was just so, shows don't usually make me cry, but that got me.
Yeah.
And it's probably our scientific brains, but that was also my favorite, not because in the joyous way, but because of the expression of desperation that Jamie portrayed, his expectations, which Claire couldn't fulfill, her disappointment because she couldn't save his godfather. I would, however, extend that scene from the point of Murtagh's death when Jamie says, "Help me," several times. He is so desperate, and he cannot see what his compatriots can see, and that is that Murtagh is gone. So that part, all the way to him being drug into the tent and laid down, and Jamie saying, "What do you need?" And grabbing her bag, or whatever it was, some of her tools, her things, and "What do you need? I'll get them for you. Save him, help him." And the last part, when he raises his voice at her and says, "Save him," it's like he struck Claire in the face verbally. It was the equivalent of it, I think. And I just was so deeply touched by the whole thing, not only his acting, but Claire's also. I just thought both of them performed way beyond stellar.
I don't think it's your scientific minds, because my favorite scene is Jamie and Claire in the tent when Murtagh is dead and Jamie cannot accept it. That's also my favorite scene. And it's just heartbreaking. Sam, like, if he's finally going to get an award for something, it would be this episode, in my opinion. He's so gutted, and you feel it, and his desperation is so, it's just, you feel it in your body. And then when he yells at Claire and you see her just, her doctor self and her wife self and her heartbreak for him, I could start crying talking about it. But yeah, it just, that performance by particularly Sam, but Katrina also, just, I watched it 3 times and 3 times I bawled. So that's my favorite scene. It's not a happy scene, but my favorite.
Oh God. Do I have to pick one? For this part of the discussion, I'll say, I love that the scene with Claire and Jamie in the tent when, the birthday celebration. That is the kind of intimacy that was so lacking in season 4, and that I, for one, have greatly missed. And I love the fact that they so seamlessly incorporated Diana's dialogue in that scene. It was just so believable. It was just, and the lighting, it was so soft. It was just a beautifully produced scene.
I liked that scene also the beginning. It did, and I thought it at the time I watched, and I heard read that someone else said the same description. It felt like, you know, Marilyn Monroe, JFK, you know, singing Happy Birthday. And I did a Carmen. I looked it up to find out when Happy Birthday was actually written. I did some research.
And
Carmen.
It was actually published in 1893. So it hadn't even been written at the time that she was singing the song. So I kind of was wondering why there wasn't some reaction from him, like, where did that come from? Because unless she had sang it before.
right.
You know,
I think
he's like,
I think he knows.
You wrote a song for me just for my birthday.
Did you happen to find in your research what year Marilyn Monroe sang that?
What year? I think it was 1963, if I remember correctly. He was
Well,
president at the time.
He died
in 63? Did he die in 63?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's when my first child was born. So he.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
died
while he
that
was
fall.
president.
And Claire went back.
No, yeah. So maybe
he went back in 60.
She would have been in Boston at the time that Marilyn Monroe sang that to JFK.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a wonderfully done scene. I didn't really have much of a hormonal reaction to it until they focused on Jamie. Then it became more, it was very intimate. It was extremely intimate. So it was just nice. It was a nice scene. I wouldn't describe it as a sex scene because it was just so well done. And not because, you know, sex is tawdry in any way, but it's just that was not the point. It was clearly not the point, and that was very well done for that reason. One thing I thought was cute though was that they didn't make his, you know, like the whole scene when he was looking under the blankets and doing all that. It was like a little schoolboy. He was being a little cheeky, and that's, you know, that was action. With him doing something and her kind of going, "Oh my gosh, you're such a geek."
I like this one too, that Antoinette and Kathy have spoken of, but I actually liked the exchange between Roger and Morag. I thought that was actually convincing. I thought they brought back, you know, the scene from the Gloriana, swiftly brought it back to our mind. Yes, I do realize that the introduction had some of that footage in it, but I think she makes a lovely Morag. I really like her.
Yeah.
And I think Roger was, he was convincing that he was, you know, surprised to see her, delighted to see her. He knows that she's his many times great grandmother, 5 or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but him telling her, if anything should happen, come to the bridge. I will take care of you. And I thought that was consistent with Roger's character, because in the book he is a very generous man, and kind and tender. He hasn't always come across with those elements to his character in the show, but in the book he really is a really decent man, and that fit to me with his character. I think that is what I would expect him to say. I don't remember if those are the exact words stream when he in Alamance Creek when he comes across her. And of course, the minute I heard Graham Mackenzie's voice, it was just like a chill went down my back. It felt like, you know, how he gets Claire in the, I think it was in 104 when she was going to escape. And these men catch her in the hallway. His voice is that kind of deep, threatening, velvety tone that he, you know, it was just a thrill to hear his voice again.
They did that on purpose. They said they had him say his line off camera on purpose because he has such a distinctive voice.
Did you guys realize it was Graham when you heard his voice, or did you have to see him?
I had to see him.
The first time I saw it, my mind was going tick, 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 and it just lit on, oh, it's Graham when his face was shown.
Yeah.
So it was sort of in between the two, I guess.
I think that was mine too. I remember shrieking, just like, Yeah.
Oh,
Thought how brilliant. What a brilliant idea.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, my other favorite scenes that I'll mention is just, yes, I had the Murtaugh's death scene. Specifically, like what you said, Carmen, when Jamie is says, "Help me," and steam comes out of his mouth, and just that goodbye and the heartbreak. Oh, so good. And then the other scene I really liked is after Jamie has the red coat on and he comes to say goodbye to Claire, and she comes out of the tent, and it's reminiscent of the very first episode in season 1, when at the end of the war, when she drinks the wine, seeing her with that canteen and drinking, and then how she puts it down and then looks at him and says, "Jesus H. Roosevelt's Christ." That really was a throwback for me of that, and I just loved that whole goodbye. I thought it was really beautiful between them.
yeah. That was one of my favorites too. They wove in, Diana's words, and it was a callback to that first episode. And for me, I saw the Jamie and Claire from the books.
Yeah.
In that scene with her sending him off to war again. It brought me back to Preston Pans. And I loved every single Jamie and Claire interaction in this episode, because all of it just felt so authentic and felt like them. My other favorite scene is, of course, when that smarmy bastard Tryon made Jamie put on that coat. That was as a Jacobite. And for him to stand there and make Jamie put that coat on, I wanted to run him through. And all that disgust just pouring out of Sam. It was a tour de force. I love that scene.
Did you all take it that way, that Tryon was sort of oblivious?
I didn't take it. I didn't take it as him being trying to stick it to him, although that's what Jamie probably took it as. But I took it that he's just so oblivious and so arrogant that of course anyone should want the honor of wearing a red coat, and that's how I took it.
Yeah, I thought he was
doing him a favor.
Yeah,
I took it that way.
Yeah, I hate his guts.
His mother was a lady, so he had some kind of peerage in his background. Tryon, in real life, Tryon's mother was lady, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember what her name was, but, I think he came from a privileged class, and he thinks whatever he bestows on anybody, they should be grateful for.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys saw my interview with Tim Downey. I think you did, and it's been a while even since I've watched it, but he talked about how he thought that Tryon would have gone to Harrow or Eton, because those schools were established in the 1400s. I looked it up after our interview, and, just saying like posh, good old boys. Yeah. I think he wouldn't be able to relate to Jamie at all in terms of not wanting to be him.
Yeah. Interestingly, you should say that, because as I was watching, I remembered that there was one Outlander actor who had gone to Eton, and I was trying to remember who it was, and I remember now it was Hoare, not Tim Downey. But I thought it was him. As I was watching him act, I thought, he comes off as a Etonian very much so.
He has that posh, smarmy, slimy.
Well,
that public
that's intended, because I don't think that's Tim Downey's background.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
No.
But he plays it so well that I thought that I was wondering if he did.
Catherine, what worked for you? I mean, this is going to be long too.
What worked for me was primarily the music. I watched it twice. The first time I wasn't paying much attention to the music. I was just watching the scenes. And then the second time when I really started focusing, I realized how much of the emotional reaction to the show was because of the music that was playing. The Gaelic music, then the music without the words. They did the instrumental. They slowed it down. They kind of had the human sounds muffled, but the music not muffled. It was just so moving that even without the images, the music was very emotive. The other that worked for me was just the pace. They let the story play out. The filming. Yeah. They started off with close-ups of faces, and they moved out into large, panoramic images, then back to faces when it mattered. The scenery, I won't get into the walls yet, but there was something new in this episode. And then Jamie, Sam, had to do with directing, I'm sure, a lot of directing, a lot of editing, and it was done beautifully this time. But so much of the good of this episode was because of how Sam played off other characters. Had he been a lesser actor, 80% of that episode would not have hit home. It was simply because of his acting that most of that episode hit home.
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair point.
Yeah. Carmen, what worked for you in this episode?
I'm trying to think. There were only a few things I even picked up on that didn't work. But one of the things that I thought was really well done was the preparation for battle. Mm-hmm. The close-ups of men taking their rifles, of assembling a bayonet, mounting their horses and so forth. It reminded me of the scene from A Man from Snowy River, where they're getting ready to go out looking for that expensive horse that ran off with a wild herd. I don't know if you've ever seen that film, but it would be a good one to watch in these times. If you've never seen it, it's Australian. It's a fabulous film, but the close-ups, of those little details, very well done. I thought the men assembling in the field, Tryon's troops as well as the militia, by the way, that black horse got used over and over and over again.
Oh dear.
Every time I saw somebody on a horse, it was that same black horse.
It was the Beardsley's horse.
Yeah, his pay grade should be lifted, in my opinion. Anyway, Tryon rides up, and the tension, as they're waiting to see what the regulators are going to do, when Jamie did not fire and his men were waiting for him to fire so that they could fire. And, Tryon says, fire, idiot, or fire on them or fire on me. He actually is purported to have said that. That is historical from what I understand. And then the regulators, it was played out a little bit different in this scene, but they actually taunted Tryon's troops. They made fun of them, and they were, taunting them because they knew they had twice as many men, and they thought that they could win that battle. The trees, I will say that the battleground, which you remember I went to in January, it's more like piney woods. There's not all the undergrowth, and you wouldn't be able to find that in Scotland. So I understand that theirs is more like the Oregon woods where I live. What they filmed in is more like that. But in reality, there wasn't much underbrush. It's piney woods. They're you gals who live in that area, you know what they're like, what piney woods are like, and that's really what it was like in that area of the country. But I did think that they did a great job once they got in there. I thought it was exciting. I liked where Jamie said, fight like they fight, and in a guerrilla style warfare, Indian style, lure people into a situation and then attack, that sort of thing. But I thought that it was the whole area of that battle scene was well done.
Let's see what worked for me. Carmen, you already said this, but the combination of Tony's writing and Stephen Wolfenden's directing, I think, was just magical. And I hear a lot of complaints about Tony, which I'm always a little baffled by. I don't know if she's a great manager of people. Certainly on the podcast, when she says Down the Rabbit Hole is her favorite episode of the season, I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Listening to her speak about what she's written and what she's actually written don't always mesh. And so I think a lot of people judge her writing based on what they think they're hearing rather than what it actually is.
Well, and I think the major complaints are about when she says, we thought it'd be good at is her job, which is writing these episodes. And I went and looked it up because, and I've done this before on Twitter, people are like, Tony's this and Tony's that. She wrote Rent. She wrote The Devil's Mark, episode 111. Rent is 105. She wrote Faith, 207. She wrote the Dragonfly and Amber, the finale, where they're the scene at the Stones, 213 with Matt. She did 304 of Lost Things. She did The Birds and the Bees, 409, which I believe is also a favorite of yours, Antoinette, and Man of Worth. And then she did this one. I mean, she's a great writer. Whatever else Tony's good or not good at, she can write these characters. And and she did a beautiful job at adapting, for season 1, but she's been with us since season 1. So that same way that Matt has digested the material and there's like a seasoning about his writing, I think Tony also has, because she's particularly after the last 2 episodes, the role of the director cannot be overstated.
Yep.
Because Wolfenden did Man of Worth, 413 last season, which was a good episode in my opinion. It was well done.
I liked it
from that perspective. And then he also did 501, The Fiery Cross. Find the amazing directors and line them up
and keep them.
Yeah. There is a magical combination, definitely, that works. I didn't look, and I meant to check to see who edited this episode.
Yeah,
because
I didn't notice either.
The editing was very good.
Yeah.
There wasn't all that choppiness, that jumping back and forth.
I have a feeling that we never see this because he's just there, but I bet Ron had a hand in this one.
I could see that without too much trouble.
Yeah,
but
he's
I would like
great editor.
I would like to say one thing about Tony. I think Tony is at her best when she doesn't go very far afield of her book. I think she's at her best when she goes too far afield. Then I feel the same way.
But she hasn't written any that she's gone far afield. That's what she doesn't do. That she uses the source material. I mean, if you can think of one.
Well, I think that the Watch was a bit far afield. Although I liked it, but I didn't think it certainly isn't in my top 5
well,
of all
wasn't
time.
Down the Rabbit Hole a lot of stuff that wasn't there? Which one's the one with Leary?
Didn't write that one.
She didn't write it.
Oh, okay.
She just liked it, I guess.
Oh,
I think she was just trying to, you
She
noticed in the podcast they said the last 2 were their favorites of the season.
Yeah.
He's trying to be a team player.
I thought that the way they killed Murtaugh was very effective. I thought all the adaptations were very seamless. I liked all the use of the book. But the fact that they had a child kill him who Jamie had coached to not waver and not, that you have to kill. It was like an airtight thing, like he couldn't be mad at that kid.
Did you see the look on his face of pride to suddenly was like, oh shit, what did I just do? I didn't hesitate. And then when you saw how devastated Jamie was, he was like,
a grown man, we would have been pissed at that guy. Just the way they did it, it was so sweet and it was so tidy. I just thought it was so well done. the development of the Browns' animosity for Claire.
Ooh,
I
yes.
think they are just doing such a good job of weaving that in there.
Yep.
Really, really. Those Browns.
Especially Lionel the Weasel.
The Weasel. Richard Brown, played by Chris
Dame Maggie
Larkin, is Maggie Smith's son.
son.
She actually has two sons who are actors,
Yeah.
which I didn't know
Toby
about.
Stevens is one of my favorite
Yeah.
actors.
Toby
Forever.
Stevens, and then this guy. So he comes by it naturally, but he had that little mouth working.
Yeah.
It's really
let us
interesting.
Let us put this unpleasantness behind us.
He just rolls that jaw, you know. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, and you're like,
Ew.
you're such a snake. There's no way that you mean that.
How much time do I have? What worked for me? Listen, whatever Stephen Wolfenden is being paid, it's not enough. He's a freaking genius. Love his direction. Before the episode came out, he posted something on Twitter. And I tweeted him back and said, "Are you directing this episode?" And he answered and said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, we are in for a good one." And he brought it. He freaking brought it. I love everything.
And he watches these.
I don't know if he watches.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Wait, our discussion?
He watches these. He reads it out. He also reads the Blacklanders convos.
Oh, Stephen, we invite you
Shout
to
out,
direct every episode in season 6.
Yeah, that's it. Fire
Don't worry about what
everybody.
they say.
Fire
You're fired.
everybody else and just let him do the whole shit. The length, they were longer when they needed to be longer, and they were short when they needed to be short. And I loved his use of Bree riding through to get to them as a transition. I mean, that was just brilliant. I loved the cinematography worked for me, especially, I think Kathy said it about the close-ups and then the wide shots. Oh my God. And then the sideway, the way they shot Jamie when he was in his grief from the side, and just the cinematography, the pacing, nothing lagged. There was not one beat that was off. It just kept going and going. The pacing worked, the cinematography worked, all the transitions worked, the character development, you saw the layering, and it didn't take too long, but it was just so well done that it felt seamless.
You said something and it sparked a thought for me, the Bree writing one. The other thing that I thought was brilliant was the letter reading, how they switched it around. That could have been so boring.
That was just so
lesser
well
hands.
done. Yes.
Yeah, but it was like Jamie's face. Tim did such a good job reading that.
Yeah.
Then Murtaugh reading. It kept the anticipation with the drumming, with the music. I thought that was a really great
a little bit of genius right there.
Yeah.
There was so much that was done that was subtle. Also, they complimented the viewer by treating us as if we are intelligent viewers, so that we didn't have to be spoon-fed every single thing and have everything explained to us. We could read between the lines. And I think one of the scenes where that was very, very obvious was when they had Bree staring out into the trees. They filmed her from the back. She was the only person in the frame. They filmed her from the back. And that is like considered the absolute no-no in acting of any kind. Just like you never turn your back to the audience unless there's someone else in the scene. But it read so honestly, but they didn't have, the camera in her face with her with some, looking like she was, the angst and all that. It was just her back, her standing rigid.
Yeah. that was one of my favorite scenes because Jamie's absorbed in his grief, and then he looks up and goes, "Oh shit!" Like
Roger.
he's pulled out of himself, and it's that whole scene. He says, "One Roger, one word.
Yeah.
That's it." It's a great scene. So that's the director, right? That's the director.
Yes.
Yeah, Steven, dude,
Brilliant.
We've hit on it a bit, but I would like to say that I thought Tim Downey did an excellent job in portraying Tryon. He actually was not a very nice man. And when he got to New York, he was known for his viciousness in the treatment of any captive people that came under his watch. And I doubt he hung 7 of the regulators in the end. He let 6 go, but he also hung 7 of them. When Caldwell comes and asks for consideration, that actually did happen. And then a little later in the history, 2 men came to ask him for further concessions, and he shot one of them dead.
Oh, wow.
Just shot him in cold blood. And he was just, I think, provoked, by them persisting and defying his orders to surrender. Even though that wasn't portrayed, it kind of was, because he fired the first shot and struck the regulator in the forehead. So I think that was a tip of the hat to that event, which actually did occur. But I thought throughout, his arrogance, his sense of self-righteousness, his sense of privilege, his sense that I am, in control and everybody needs to kowtow to whatever I say is the right thing to do. I thought he portrayed that very, very well. And it made him a very unfavorable character to most people who watch the episode, from what I've seen anyway on social media. They had very little good to say about him, but facial expressions and his turning of his mouth down, and the haughtiness with which he received things and people's opinions and so forth. But the good thing that I will say about him, and I'll repeat it, is that he portrayed that kind of person extraordinarily well.
Yeah.
And I'll say one other thing, and that is about Jamie putting on the coat. Jamie didn't put on the coat. He permitted Tryon to put it on him, but he did not put it on himself. And Tryon said, yes, a striking figure. That coat didn't fit him. I didn't think it was too small for Jamie. And it was just ridiculous. And I think, Tryon wasn't, I don't think that he cared whether or not it fit him properly. His own coat was fitting like a glove. That was a beautiful garment, Tryon's coat.
It was tailored.
Jamie's didn't fit him. It didn't close in the front. It was for a smaller man. And for Tryon to say, oh, what a striking figure. It was just because it was to his benefit that this militia officer would wear a red coat in command. So I thought he did all of that extremely well.
Yeah, I agree. I think.
Yeah, and I think it was good. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, just Tim's been around for a long time on Twitter, and I've interviewed him, and he probably has that darker side. Most of us do, but it's not like he wears it on the outside. But I thought he did such a good job of showing that.
Yeah, I wanted to break his knees.
Yeah, like that baser. When he does that line, fire, God damn it, fire on them or fire on me, that's like some good anger. Like I bought him too.
I think it was like that right there was the epitome of arrogance, because my thought was, okay, wow.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, but he thought no one would dare. Who would ever?
Exactly.
And they didn't dare do it either.
About the red coat, though, what I think was also done very well was when they had him take it off, they had showed his men watching, and they were taking their cues from him. So it was like that was the turning point on so many different levels.
Yeah.
In that he made it clear he is not on the British side anymore.
That was another stroke of genius. That really worked, you know, because it set up Jamie has chosen his side, and it is definitely not with the British. And I loved when the camera panned to two of the men who I think were his Ardsmuir men, and to see him put on that red coat and they panned to their faces. That was another stroke of genius.
Yeah.
In terms of directing. And lastly, John Quincy Myers as Jamie's lieutenant. I love that little partnership.
I did too.
I was going to ask you, have you changed your mind about him, Courtney? Because he didn't click for you last season.
He didn't click for me last season, but he's grown on me. I think part of it is Kyle Reese is just such a great guy. And then I was just kind of against him because he was taking Fergus's role. But in this one, I was like, okay, I like him. Yeah.
That's the thing about Sam, is that he has chemistry with every single person.
That's true.
Again.
Except the babies. He doesn't have chemistry with the babies, but other than that, he's fine.
Yeah, but
I'm trying to think if there's someone he hasn't had chemistry with.
I can't think of anybody.
Yeah.
Well, it would be interesting because you never see him really act a lot with.
I'm just teasing.
I saw a little chemistry there. Just a little.
I'm teasing you, Courtney.
I know you are. I love it. Geneva.
In this episode, he elevated it to a level that I'm surprised he was able to, given how brilliant he's been in the past. I didn't think he could get any better, but he definitely did.
This is for me one of his best episodes of all time.
I agree, but
fantastic
I think,
acting.
15 and 16 were unparalleled in my opinion, but that required him to be in sort of the same emotional state, most of it. This saw a full gamut, from joy with his wife at the beginning to devastation for Roger at the end, and it was everything in between.
Yes.
And that's what, to me, makes the whole appearance and beauty of a talented, gifted actor, is if they can go through all of that emotion and have us buy into it.
You know what I find interesting is that vein he has in his forehead. I don't know what he does to make it pop out on command, but it does. And it's like, wow. How do you
I
do
think
that?
it just pops out when he's emoting.
I think it has to do with the tension in his neck muscles.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because his facial veins are going to drain down here into his external and internal jugulars, and if his neck muscles are pressing against them, it will cause backup of blood into his face. That's what my theory is, anyway. Would you agree, Catherine?
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, I never normally notice the music because it's just part of the whole experience for me. I don't really listen out for it, but they brought back my Je suis prêt song. That song there was a little bit of it during the battle, and I don't know what instrument that was, if it was a cello, a violin, I don't know what it was.
I wrote Bear today on his Instagram page to ask him what that instrument was. It sounds almost like an accordion organ to me, but I don't know what it is.
It just tugged at my heart so much. Yeah. And I said, oh my God, these people are freaking geniuses.
It worked for me to bring Graham back. I think we already said that.
Yeah.
And there was a scene where the four of them, after Brianna rides back, and Jamie and Claire and Roger and Brianna are all working out what's going to happen. I loved the teamwork in that scene, that Antoinette, you've been bringing up like the partnerships, and I felt like
Yeah.
there was genuine caring between them all, and I
They
thought
were
that
a
was
family.
yeah, I thought
Yeah.
they seemed like a family.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did.
Okay, but since we're talking about things that work, in the
Yeah.
scene where Roger was singing to Jimmy, did anyone else notice the color of the walls in that room?
Yes,
Yes.
I did.
No.
I cannot believe I'm noticing wall
It
colors.
was the most beautiful. Actually, and the reason I noticed is because I have that color in my house. It's it's called Garrett Gray in Sherwin-Williams, but I'm not sure what that one was. A little more dusky than the one I have, and
Yes,
it had a little bit more blue.
sort of
But it was a
mauvey gray.
beautiful. I
Did it
don't
have some
know
hints of
who
mauve in
picks
it?
the colors, but my gosh, we have the same aesthetic when it comes to wall colors. They're just beautiful. And that one,
Beautiful.
and notice how, because normally what they do is they put a glaze on the wall. So the walls are often very shiny. And the first thing I noticed how that one was completely matte. And it was all the same. It was just wonderfully done.
Okay, let's go to least favorite scenes. Catherine, did you have a least favorite?
Least favorite. There's nothing. The least favorite, and only because I
I'm
have to
making
pick
you
something.
pick one. Yeah.
When they're walking through asking, have you seen Roger Mack, before they got to the thing. That was it.
Okay.
It just seemed like, they were asking anybody just randomly, have you seen Roger Mack? Have you seen Captain, Mackenzie? That's it. But even still, that worked. It was important. It was necessary to kind of build up to the next scene. Yeah. So there was nothing there's nothing I would have taken out. There's nothing I felt they should have added. It was just very, very, very well done.
Everything worked for me, honestly. But one of the little catches that I caught is Jamie's birthday is when? You remember?
May 1st.
May 1st. And do you know when the Battle of Alamance was?
Not May 1st.
No, it's May 16th.
Ah.
So when I read the script today, and in the script, the way that it was written, about 4 or 5 days passed, but they're still, over a week off from when the battle actually occurred. And I don't know if that was an oversight or if it was done on purpose.
Well, I was hard pressed to find a least favorite scene, and I picked the scene in the Sherstons where he comes in and says, at the tavern there said they're doing this, and Brianna's like, I remember that. I thought, well, that's, they tried to burn your mom. You should be kind of careful there. She just kept saying, something happened here. Where have you been there? No. That was the only scene that I
that didn't play very well, but
that was the only one.
Yeah.
And I have under what didn't work, nothing.
My least favorite scene would have been probably the opening scene, because I still think that there's an awkwardness between the Roger and Bree characters that still just strikes an off note with me. But I mean, in the overall scheme of things, with how wonderful the episode was, it didn't detract at all. And I actually freaking loved Roger in this episode.
Yes.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yes.
I loved his interaction with Myrta.
Yeah.
Richard was so bloody good.
But yeah, I agree with you. Rick he's a phenomenal actor. I mean, I've watched him in several different roles, and you lose him in everything. You just don't see him in anything he portrays. You just completely lose him in the character.
When he's in that camp, listening to Murtaugh and the exchange, the look on his face just looks like, that he knows he is in a threatening situation, that he is in danger. His eyes are widened. He has that look of wariness on his face. And I thought he conveyed, even in his body language, I thought he did a good job of conveying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really good.
And his costume this episode was really great, I thought.
Looked good on him.
Ooh, yes. And did you see that freaking leather coat that Jamie had on?
Yes.
Oh, I love that coat. It reminded me of Brian Dew's coat that he had on at Lallybrook. And you see, it gave him such an air of command. You know, when he was striding through the camp, it was like this, you know, just make way, I'm coming through. I'm in charge of this shit.
Did you see the yoke on the back of that jacket?
At the back?
Yeah, instead of coming across flat like most do, it was pointed in the back and came down. It was really a good looking feature.
I thought also Katrina did a really good job and was more subtle in this episode.
Yes.
Even as Claire, when she says like, well, it's her choice. And then the guy turns around and is like, you know, no woman talks to me that way. And Jamie, or why don't you stay out of it? And Jamie scoops her away. That Claire would do that, but she doesn't like stop the whole scene and pull, you know, so I think that's got to be the directing. I think that's got to be the directing.
She is so much better in medical scenes now than she's ever been.
I agree.
And so much more realistic. I mean, that is, you know, in that scene, rather than, you know, someone just like, no woman talks to me that way, old Claire would have been, you know, lecturing him about women's rights. New Claire was devastated because as a doctor, she realized what she just lost. And that was
penicillin.
Penicillin, her ability to use it.
Yes. I actually wrote down as one of my favorite scenes, one of the 10,000, the one with her and Isaiah Morton, and how she was saying, you're going to be there, and he's freaking out, and she's, you know, just.
I love Katrina in this episode.
Yeah, she was great.
When she said, Myrta, my friend. Oh my gosh. I was just, the waterworks was just turned on full blast. She was brilliant. She didn't have a lot to do in this episode, but she did what she had was done perfectly. I thought beautifully.
She did have a lot to do. It was just more subtle.
And so it was real. It was more realistic.
What I'm trying to say is that her expressions, what she expressed by her face and her body, made up for in every way for lesser, maybe a fewer words here than what we've seen her in many episodes.
Yes. Well, she's present, and you miss her, and she's part of it. It's not, you know, I felt she was very part of this episode.
This was such a well acted episode and was so well done. It was actually very difficult for me. Usually I could separate fiction from reality, but it just hit so close to home. I missed this after Murtaugh was on the table and she said that goodbye my friend, or my friend
Murtaugh, my friend
Murtaugh, until the end. The first time I watched it, that was a blur. I didn't remember I didn't realize I missed so much of that part until I rewatched it.
And before she even said that, didn't you think when she held his face in her hands, that was just so touching, because
so beautiful.
I could see a person who loved a friend do that. It was just very realistic, very poignant, and so tender, you know. I mean, you think back, he was the first person that she actually interacted with. I mean, she saw Angus shoot, you know, up on the hillside, but he was the first person. He was there from the very beginning. He's the one that rescued her from Blackjack.
In the scene with Jamie, and that was all our favorites, or three of us, it was all about Jamie for her. And I'm glad they gave a moment to her and Murtaugh for her to say goodbye to him.
More and Murtaugh.
As well.
Yeah. You see, when the writing is good, when the character is the character and not a caricature, Katrina just kills it.
Yeah.
You know, and she killed every single scene she had in this episode, from the beginning one to when she said goodbye to him and said, you know, I love you, soldier, to when she said goodbye to Murtaugh. She killed every single
You guys,
scene.
I'm going to have to step out of this part. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
It wasn't even so much Claire. It was when she touched his face. That's what got me.
Oh, I'm sorry to have
No, it's
brought
okay.
that up.
Okay.
Where's Antoinette? She must be going number 2.
Should we ask her?
Just to touch on that just a little bit. I know Antoinette's not here, but no, but that's when people do things that are so organic that it is true to life, no matter what the era, no matter what the time.
Yeah.
It was very believable, wasn't it?
Exactly. But that was the first thing that all of us did. I mean, when my father passed away, we touched his face. Yeah. It was like that's the person. It's not their hands, it's not their feet, it's not their chest, it's their face. And that's what you when you kiss someone, you kiss their face, you kiss their forehead, you touch their face, And so
except
that
if
was
you're
the
try
part.
on, then you kiss their ass.
Oh, Carmen!
Wow, Carmen. I think you have a little something against.
Well, he's a
That was
smarmy
funny.
bastard.
He really is. It was just so real that it just it goes beyond just acting.
Yeah.
It goes beyond that's true feeling that gets portrayed in a way that no amount of training can do.
Mm-hmm.
Either you've got it or you don't.
you don't.
Understand it or you don't. It's not something that you can be taught. It's just there. And that's when you see the difference between a okay actor and a brilliant actor.
We're going to go to things that I noticed, and I'm just going to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
When Claire says it's that foursome scene and they're talking about, well, but they're not fighting for independence right now. And she says, well, they're fighting against injustice and unfair taxes. I was like, why did you have to say that, Antoinette?
I thought about Antoinette when I heard that too.
Not the taxes.
I don't want to hear about the goddamn taxes.
Well, it's over now. I think now we're going to be seeing more other things.
Okay, things you noticed. Catherine, are you ready to go, or would you like to?
Yes.
Okay, things you noticed.
Things I've noticed. I noticed that everyone's acting was elevated in this episode. Even Sam, who I honestly didn't believe could get any better, did. I mean, he really is really good. I mean, he's up there. Like, I remember watching, he was in Mrs. Robinson. Oh God, what's his name?
Dustin
Hoffman.
Yeah.
I remember watching a movie and seeing Dustin Hoffman, like recognizing him for his brilliance for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt watching this. I'm just seeing a phenomenal actor who's just absolutely brilliant. I feel like his acting is definitely on the level of Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, I feel like that's the level in which he acted in this episode. Mm-hmm. And I really hope that it translates into something else. I know we won him in Outlander, and I used to say that you could always see little Sam-isms in all of his films. You didn't see anything here. And I really hope that he does other things, because he really is up there with the greats. And I'm not a big, oh, Sam can do everything perfectly type fan. If anything,
you have
I'm
the
not.
hots for Stephen Crease, not.
Oh
Sam.
yeah. Now I say the same. Stephen is actually up there too.
He's a great actor too.
Yeah, I hope he gets his due
I just
as
was
well.
pointing out that you're not actually in love with Sam.
No, I'm not. Sam is not my favorite actor. He is by far, though, the best that Outlander has seen, other than Stephen.
I liked a couple of lines that I thought was very good. the little exchange with Buck, where he says, "Your wife must be ill-favored, Shirley, for you to be sniffing after mine." And then he said that a man should cory into ye in public like a common raj. You know what that means? I looked it up.
What?
Cory is Scots for snuggle. So he was saying that he would snuggle you in public like that. That's what he was. That's his response to his wife.
What's a raj? What's a raj?
Well, a raj is a violent person, which that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But why he would use that? But I thought it was a really interesting set of sentences, and where he says, you know, your wife must be really ill-favored. And then Roger also says, I have a wife and I have no need of yours. You know, I don't have a need for your wife. I just thought that was really great dialogue between those guys, you know, where they were
back and forth,
flipping it back and forth like two guys might, you know, who are contesting each other. I don't know, why didn't they use Herman Husband? He was there at the Battle of Alamance. He left early, but they didn't use him. And why would they use him in that one little thing, you know, where he's standing in the dark?
What did you guys say he looked like?
He looked like almost
Harry
like a Sasquatch to me. I don't remember. And I liked Alamance, meaning all man's land. I thought that, I didn't know that, and I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Those were things I noticed.
So I'll just have a comment on the Scots that was used. Agave O'Broin consulted on this episode, and he's the Gaelic consultant. So Jamie's Gaelic lines on the river, he would have written all those, and he's going to do a translation.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, I'll publish it with our discussion, but if he does it soon. But I wouldn't be surprised if he came up with the Scots part as well, because I know that he worked, you know, with Tony on this script. So
interesting.
Lucas, the Beardsley's horse that Tim was on, is unflappable. He screams that in his little ears. He's like, ooh, you know, he's kind of confused, but he's not like taking off. That horse is amazing.
Yeah. Probably why they use him over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I do know that when they film and they're shooting, there's no sound effect when they're actually shooting. They put that in later. That's why you see the horses like.
Oh, because of what do they call that? There's a term for that, where they go back and add the voices.
Dubbing in.
Special effects. I don't know. Like,
special effects.
They panned away from the horses during those shots. So it wasn't like that one where they're like, and then, you know, they're like. So that worked for me. And I noticed it. Things that you noticed, Antoinette.
Wait, I don't understand how nobody has talked about Grandpa Jamie in the stream. Damn.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it's on my list, the medical anatomy list.
This don't look like no grandpa that I've ever seen.
That was the what was that, the Tarzan moment?
The
Alex
Greystoke.
Skarsgård.
The Greystoke moment.
He was buff.
Yeah.
I think that he probably filmed this while he was after he had bulked up, or when he was in the process of trying to bulk up for Bloodshot, because he was buff.
Yeah.
I am saying,
not only that, he looked like he was enjoying it. It was like, look, I know that was thirsty shot. That was some thirst shots, and he knew it, and he played it to the hilt.
To that. Did you see?
Yeah, he knows he looks good.
Oh my God. Oh yeah.
Well, I will say,
like, look at me and weep. He's like, instead of read and weep, he's like, look and weep. Just
that is the very definition of a gilf.
Yes.
A what?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we gotta explain it. It's a long.
Yes, that's a grandpa I would like to frag a bone with. Oh yeah. Yes.
I'll have to
Grandpa Jamie
remember
was
that one.
bringing
And I
it.
couldn't agree more.
He was bringing it.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Grandpa Jamie.
Talk about the hormonal reaction. Damn.
Yeah.
I was wondering why Claire was not jumping on him. Seriously.
Yeah.
I think she was respecting the ritual.
Yes.
You know,
I will tell you
irreverent
guys.
of me.
I
Such a spiritual moment, and all I could think about was, damn, Grandpa, you buff. You thick. That's a thick Grandpa.
Grandpa, you got cake.
Ooh, Lord.
I will say I have a 92-year-old uncle who is still built.
That's how my father was.
Yeah. And true story, this happened a few months ago. We have a big property in Michigan that's my dad's family on the lake. They literally built the cottage in the 1930s. Their family did, or 40s. And so it's got like 5 minutes of hot water and it's tiny. But he still goes out and mows and does all stuff. And he was doing the ride-on mower on the edge. It's like the edge of the property, and then it's a drop with trees all up, and then the beach is down below. And the mower went off the edge with him on it.
Oh, no.
Yes. And he grabbed a branch and saved himself, pulled himself up, walked down the steps, got on the mower, and rode it a quarter mile where the highway meets the thing. This is my dad's family. And this guy still has muscles and so I don't know.
Yeah,
I look like
don't
that.
buy the people on Twitter this week were criticizing that Jamie and Claire, didn't look like they were 50 years old, and acting like 50 years old was
It's old.
ancient. Come on.
You know what?
Like,
I remember
God.
my father in his 70s comparing his six-pack to a guy I was dating in his 20s. And my dad's six-pack was more taut than the guy in his 20s.
There you go.
As if you can't bring it in your 50s. I'm in my 50s and I can certainly bring it.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Let's see your six.
Yes,
I
you
don't look
can.
like Claire, but hey, I bet you Sam in his 50s is going to look just like he does now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I bet he does,
Guys, Graham McTavish, who is a brick shithouse.
Yeah.
He is.
Yes.
He is.
What is he, 50? He's in his 50s.
He's in his 50s? No, he must be older.
He's 57.
57?
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was
Maybe
about 54,
58.
55.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's definitely got it.
I did not think his makeup was especially becoming in this episode, but Buck doesn't have to be.
No, but we know that he was Galis and
Graham,
and Duncan's son.
Yes.
And so we know about when he was born. So he was born about 7 months after the trial, the witch's trial. Yeah. So that was what in the
1743 or something.
Well, yeah. And now we're in so he should be in his 30s, in his mid 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're trying to make a 60-year-old look 30.
Yeah.
Should we do medical and anatomical?
Sure.
Yes. I have something this time.
So do I.
Okay.
Because I actually rewound what I was looking at, because Carmen's always talking about the color of blood in things. So when they showed Murtaugh, I rewound, I said, what color is the blood? Is it bright or is it dark? So I was like,
it was
dark.
Dark.
So it must have been the superior vena cava, or the liver. Liver. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell. I was like, where did they?
Got him on the right side. Got him on the right side, and the blood in the
liver.
Like the hepatic. So the hepatic vein would have been.
I think he probably been the vein. It probably went through.
Well, where it was, I couldn't tell if it was like liver or upper rib. If it was more midline.
Remember, the dome of the liver comes up underneath the rib cage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's dome shaped. So this is an anatomy lesson. If it goes through the lower ribs, it'll catch the liver. It could also have caught the lower lobe of the lung, because it descends down in that little space on each side of the liver. So
the blood was the right color. Okay, good.
Yeah. for the where the, in my opinion, for where the wound occurred, it was the right color this time. It should have been deoxygenated blood, because the liver has a dual blood supply, right? And one part of it's deoxygenated and part of it's not, and so the blood is mixed. And if it went through the liver, and there's usually three portal veins that open into the vena cava, and so if they got anywhere close, that would be what would be pouring out, and that would be deoxygenated blood, so it would be a darker color. So I was okay with that myself.
Yeah.
And I also thought that his sleeves being soaked with Myrta's blood was very poignant, and you know, it didn't get on his coat sleeves that I saw, but his sleeves of his sark, you know, the white sark, were all soaked in Myrta's blood, and I thought that was a very poignant thing.
And his breathing, so
yes,
breathing suggested
wheezing.
that it went through his lung.
Yeah, it did.
So that was also something that I noticed.
But the anatomy of it is that the right lung comes down the lower lobe, and then the liver is pushed up underneath that. So both of them could have been affected.
The young guy who ran off with the brown girl,
Isaiah Morton.
Yeah, when he was shot, and I was trying to think about where he was shot, and I was like, how in the world did he survive that?
Yeah, in the back of
was it higher? Where was he shot? Was it low enough so it just went like missed all major organs?
I thought it looked to me like it was just about the seventh intercostal space, which is where the tip of the shoulder blade is. So that's fairly high. It was be above the level of the.
So it must not have gone all the way into the lung then.
Oh, I think it passed through it. That's why he was wheezing. And in the book, he did. It passes through, and she grabs parchment paper or something like that to keep.
It makes a flap.
Yeah.
That is cool to do though. When I read about it, and when I actually did it, that is a phenomenon. Basically, those guys are looking at like, huh? So what it is that when the lung has been punctured, you take a square over the hole, and then you only tape it on 3 sides so that air can get in. So when you take a breath in, it seals to create pressure so that you can breathe in, and then when you breathe out, it opens back up.
Yeah.
And so it allows a person to it creates the same seal of the lung as if it's your lung, but it's artificial. Yeah. When I saw that I thought that was like magic to me.
Yeah.
I was like,
she wrote that
magic.
well and believable in her writing and her description of it. It was.
Yeah.
I have a question. It seemed to me that Jamie cut the crap out of his hand in that river.
Well, you know what? I'll have a couple of comments to make out of that. If you were going to battle, would you cut across the palm of your hand like that?
No.
And
but you got to use deep. That. Yeah.
It looked pretty deep.
In the script and in the book, he cuts across his fingers, not the palm of his hand. He needs that. That's his right hand too. He needs that for battle. So that was a little flub, I thought, and probably that might have been the director's decision to have him cut across his hand, because perhaps it was more drama, but it wouldn't. I don't think a person who's going to battle the next day is going to do that to themselves. Myself, but the color was right. It was arterial blood, so I liked that. It was bright red. Did you notice? And then when he dotted himself, that was that nice bright red blood. So I was happy about that. The last thing that I saw that I noticed, and this is more anatomical, was the continuity of his scars. I checked he's got his one on the entrance wound from his bullet. He's got the one on his side from the fight at the Sandringham's place. He's got the burn mark on his side from Blackjack. But the one thing that I did notice is when they're in the tent, his scar here is not there in some of the scenes, and it's there in the cup. You know, when it pans back and forth.
Oh, interesting! I missed that.
I think they're putting that on by CGI, and they didn't get it on all of the spots. At least I couldn't see it, and I looked at. I took pictures of it, stills, and I checked them, and it's not there in all of them.
Hmm.
But that was the only loss of
Mhm.
continuity that I saw. Otherwise, he had his stuff.
Genius.
And
Yeah.
I did see his inguinal grooves
Yes. Oh, yes.
in the stream.
Oh yeah.
Those were
Yeah.
grooving.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody got
Those
their groove
grooves
back.
were grooving.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry.
Now the hanging scene, the first time I saw it, actually, it was so jarring. I didn't. Any lynching just kind of. I again, I have
Oh,
another
yeah.
visceral reaction, so I just closed. It's hard for me to see that. But the second time I watched it, when they went up to Roger, I noticed that one hand was down and one hand was up around his neck. Not to.
Well, we
cause
don't
any
know where
spoilers.
it was up under
Well,
the
it was
hood.
up
Yeah.
under the hood.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it's up under the hood, it's caught on something. It can't be up under there if he's, it would have flopped
That's
down
right.
if
Not
it wasn't,
holding
if it
it up,
wasn't
yeah,
caught
right.
on something else.
Yeah.
So I saw that the
Hmm.
second time and I thought,
Hmm.
But then I thought,
Hmm.
does it matter? Unless
Yes,
it's
it
very
matters.
soon.
It
Yeah,
matters.
Yeah.
I know.
So they
But,
hung him by what's known as a short drop hanging. A long drop hanging is meant to break the neck, but a
Mhm.
short drop hanging is meant just to strangle the
A
person.
good
And,
person.
and sometimes they last a long time that way. It's a
Mhm.
heartless, horrible thing to do
Yeah.
to someone. The
Oh.
scene where the regulator grabs the rock and hits the British soldier several times in the head. Oh my God, that was just, well, number one, it was horrifying, but number two, it was believable. Because I think when you feel that desperate, that you
Yeah.
can see I can see somebody grabbing for whatever. I mean, remember in the Battle of Culloden, Jamie grabs a hunk of grass and kills a guy by smothering him with a big hunk
With a clump of grass.
sod.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I do think that I was very impressed with that and thought that was, even though horrifying, it was believable to me.
You see, the battle scenes were graphic, but not gory, not
Yes.
excessively
Yes,
gory.
that's true.
And that's
That's
what
true.
I liked.
It was done with constraint.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of shows now are
Oh, God.
But it's still communicated,
It's
like I
still
said, the
horrifying.
brutality of
Yes.
what they went through.
Well, I can tell
Yeah.
you that we know that his parasympathetics are functioning.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
In order for him to have
what
a
is
cock
it?
stand, his
Point and
parasympathetics
shoot.
have to be
Yes.
functioning.
Point and shoot.
They're
Oh,
referring
so-
to the penis. So,
No.
Yeah.
I've heard of point
Erection.
and shoot, but I've never heard of the parasympathetic.
well, that's
Ah.
a division
know
of
what
your
that is,
autonomic
but-
nervous system that causes erection. It is the
Okay.
sympathetics that cause ejaculation. So that's point and shoot is how you remember it.
Oh, para.
Makes sense?
Yep.
But so one's voluntary and one's involuntary, right?
No, they're both
They're
involuntary.
both involuntary.
They're different divisions of the autonomic nervous
Autonomic
system.
nervous
So
system,
both are
which is
involuntary, but they do
involuntary.
different things.
Mhm.
Sometimes some things they do are coordinated, but other things are oppositional to each other. It depends on the function
Okay.
or the organ.
I'm going to go to Antoinette for lawyerly.
That's all I had.
Well, are they allowed to just hang Roger with no?
I mean, as Jamie said, there's the law and then there's what is done.
Mhm.
I mean, and I remember in war, martial law prevails. So the regular laws are suspended. And so therefore, Tryon could do that. Whether or not he should, but he could do that.
Yeah.
Because the Vienna Convention for the Treatment of Prisoners of War was not yet instituted.
And then the parlay request.
Oh, Tryon had no intention of, Jamie said, he stoked up the war. He had no intention of entering into any kind of parlay with them. But that whole process of parlay, is so interesting to me because everybody's pitched for battle. The guns are ready, everything is ready. But in the midst of all that, if you cry parlay, everything comes to a halt and you get that opportunity to see if you can resolve it at the last minute. It's like you're going into a trial and everybody's ready, and then your guy decides to take a plea.
What is parlay actually?
It's a play on the French parlez-vous. They're gonna talk. They're gonna try and talk it out.
Okay.
To see if they can resolve it.
And thinking back, what initiated that? Because it
Reverend,
wasn't okay.
The regulator
Caldwell.
sent the Reverend to
Yeah,
say,
but
this is our demands.
But if they were so bloodthirsty and wanting to go to war, why would they do that?
Because nobody wants to really die. I mean,
yeah, but then when Roger got over
well,
there,
they did do it though. Whatever their reasons, they actually did do that.
It was a part of the norms of war, you know. And in the same way, they would negotiate a surrender. It was all done, you know. There are rules and regulations to even war.
What did you guys think of the title card? The Ballad of Roger Mack showed a modern
I was curious.
Roger.
Was that Roger?
Working out.
So does that mean by the
You
end of
think
this
it was
season
him?
they're going to head back?
I don't know. I find that
I
that doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah.
That didn't look like his body to me, though.
No, that wasn't Rick. That was
Does that
somebody
mean
else.
does that mean that the story has lived through time and it became kind of like, you know, John Henry or
what I
Paul
would
Bunyan
think.
or, you know, John
that's
Henry's story kind of made it through to modern
Oh,
times? Or
interesting. Okay, we'll sing the Ballad of Roger Mack. Go ahead.
John Henry was a little baby. I don't know John Henry. My dad used to sing that on his used to play it. So that's why I know that one. I don't
It's
know
to the
that.
tune of Clementine, I bet.
Is that
And then you know what I thought when the red coat moment?
Mhm.
What would Jenny say?
Oh God.
We saw him in that.
Mm.
Can you imagine?
Boy,
She was like, "Are you mad?" But you know,
She would have
what this
felt so
does-
betrayed.
Okay,
Mhm.
but this has to do with our love of Outlander and Outlander fandom.
Mhm.
I hope that people who are all up in arms, foaming at the mouth, take this as a lesson. That they're being played with, and they fall right into it. You know, because really, I mean, come on. At this point, you should just know nothing is what it seems.
Right.
Just sit back, relax,
And
and
the ad.
enjoy it. And
Yeah.
just, you know,
Exactly.
this faux outrage. It's like, come on, it's a TV show. Just stop.
I don't know how many people say Jamie would never put on a red coat. Well, he didn't. They got around it. He didn't put it on.
Yeah.
Tryon put it on him.
That's what I said the first time I saw it. Jamie would never put on a red coat.
But you
Well,
knew
I
that
was
there's a
shocked,
story
but
behind
I
it.
don't.
Yeah.
Get,
No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't
I tend
riot
to.
or picket or
Yeah.
anything.
No,
I was
tend
curious.
to-
I was just curious to see how they got to that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I
they
was
did-
more curious than anything else. Look at all the liberties that they have taken with this story.
Yeah.
I was
a
just
lot.
curious.
I also thought it was interesting the scene between the two doomed characters. You know, when we saw Roger and Myrta together, you know,
Wow.
begging him for, you know, for the love that your godson bears you. And, you know, both of them don't know that the next day, basically, they're going to die, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very poignant.
Well, I wanted to say that. How do you think that Jamie knew it was Roger hanging there?
He's the
Didn't he see the?
saw the
Didn't he?
white.
Didn't he see the white thing?
You
that
saw
he
the
gave him?
white handkerchief
The white
hanging out of his
handkerchief.
pocket. He'd
Okay.
given
Yeah.
it to him as a flag of truth. And it was
Mhm.
hanging right out of his
Oh, that's
pocket.
right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that.
Yeah. Oof. And their favorite lines too. Does anybody have? Carmen, I think you did
Yes,
yours.
I had a favorite line, and I thought it was very poignant. It seemed like it was so fitting for today,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the line exactly, and I meant to write it down, and I didn't. But it was just saying basically that every day's a blessing,
Mm.
and that, you know, you just basically take every day as it comes, and every day is a blessing. And I just thought, given the time of sequester, that we're all sequestered, and we're sitting here and we're worrying, and that
I'm grateful.
You know, exactly. Be grateful for the days that you have.
That line is, the world and each day in it is a gift. Whatever tomorrow brings, I'm grateful to see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that struck me when he said that. I thought, wow, they could have never known the timing of this.
Yeah. Wow.
And listen
Talk about
that
serendipity.
Line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I liked the line, the words that Roger said to Morak, in terms of, you know, if anything ever happens, just come to the ridge. I just felt like that was such a, I mean, for her not to know that he is her relative.
Yeah.
I would imagine that
her great grandson.
You know, it's like it was an act of love. He knew it because it was love towards a relative. She had no way of knowing that.
Yeah.
You know, so I just thought that was I like that. Very.
I did like, well, I won't say it again.
Oh, it's okay. You can say it. I'm fine.
Murtaugh, my friend, it's just one of my favorite in the entire
I agree.
lines in the entire episode. It was just perfect for the moment.
Yeah. I agree.
There were a lot of good lines in
Very
this
good lines.
episode. It was,
I agree. And some from the book and some not.
From exactly.
That's right. I liked Roger's, but just in case, you know all the words to Clementine.
Oh, make sure you know all the words to Clementine.
Yeah. As for taking stock, I've all my teeth. None of my parts are missing, and my cock still stands up by itself in the morning. Could be worse.
I like that too.
You know, that's such a Diana thing. Diana, whenever anybody compliments her on her looks, which are, you know, she's beautiful. She always says, "Oh, could be worse." Or whenever I compliment her, that's what she says. That's such a Diana line that she says in real life. So it's funny because there's a lot of her in Jamie, even though he's a man and he's more modeled after her husband, but there's a lot of her in him. I see love hasn't softened your hard head. Jamie says to Isaiah Morton.
One of my favorite lines was when Jamie was with Murtaugh and he screamed out, "Help me now." That just drove a dagger right through my heart.
Following that, when he said, "All will be well."
And John Quincy Myers' face. When he's like, he conveys like, this guy's dead, but we have to humor him. So
exactly,
up, you know.
Yeah, he picked up on that.
Yeah,
you know that Jamie was not ready to hear that, and it was so subtle, and the camera was on him for a millisecond, but he portrayed all of that. That was so good.
That's what won me over. That's the moment that won me over.
But you know, they so rarely show him panicking. He panicked when he thought Claire was when he couldn't find Claire after the hurricane.
Yeah, and
then he panicked then, but rarely does he panic.
No, that's
and
right.
That was, and it was so believable that he did.
Oh God.
I think that's one of the reasons why it is so believable is because he never overdoes that. You know, in his character. It's just so rare that we ever see him in that kind of a response, that when it does happen, it's just riveting to watch. And there was just a whole series, Antoinette, if you remember, a whole series after Help Me, you know, and then he got louder, and then it was All Will Be Well. It's taking to Claire. She's going to make it all better.
Fix him.
Yeah.
She knows what to do. She'll know what to do. That whole sequence was from that small broken first "Help Me,"
yes,
to the other "Help Me," and to that primal scream, "Help me now."
Yeah.
Oh, I love that line. And Sam just delivered that perfectly. I also love the line that Claire said to him when they were saying goodbye. And she says, "I love you, soldier." there was a line, what did he say to Tryon just before he threw down the coat? I've paid
It
my
says there
debt.
is, oh yeah, I thought you were going to say there is the law and then
And there's what is done. That's one of my
done.
favorite lines.
Mhm.
And then he said, I've paid my debts.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it was more the delivery, you know, but that was those lines spoke to me.
I found that line. I have paid my debt and I've finished with my obligation to you and to the crown. But it is just the sheer, he's so raw when he says that, and so angry and so grief ridden.
Yeah.
The crown has taken a lot from him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very understandable.
In Tryon's arrogance, he doesn't even think that that's Jamie saying, that's it, I'm no longer on your side. I'm going to the other
he's
side
like,
now.
oh, okay. I mean, he did say, you know, I understand it was hard to go against your countrymen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But
Tryon is an ass.
he is a total asshole.
That's being nice.
And he was well played.
And then I thought Murtaugh's line, do you ken how long a few years is to men who've lost everything?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Courtney. I love that one too. Yeah, that resonated with me.
And what Roger says when he says, I have a thick skull too, runs in my family, and he's
that's cute.
And he's so, you know.
Yeah, but I'm saying, dude.
Yeah.
I'm back listening about the comments and you're talking about thick skulls.
Watch out for Buck. Yeah, and the last one was, a man who's sure of his wife needn't worry that someone else might try to steal her. I'm sure of my own wife, and I have no need of yours. Yeah. So, standouts.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's probably
Sam.
shorter to list people who weren't.
Sam.
You know.
Sam.
The Sam's my first one too.
Sam.
Katrina's my second.
Yep, me too.
I think she's
although
pretty close.
I have to say, Katrina's always been good, but it's the directing that's changed how much I like her, because she's always been a good actor, but the difference is her direction's been changed.
Yeah,
I think the writing
and the
is
writing
also
as well.
Yeah.
Writing also,
yeah,
I think so.
Tony and Steven are both on my list, right
Yeah.
up there.
However,
the top four:
but-
Sam, Cat, Tony, Steven.
I think that this has to do with directing, and has to do with maybe her having more of a say in how she acts and what happens, because it's far more realistic now.
Yeah,
I like to think that they've been listening to the fans too.
Yeah,
I would hope
they'll never admit it.
Cat.
Although I have to say, Matt did say, he did say that he's, read that everyone's asking where's Phaedra. So he did respond to that. Yeah.
What
he
did
responded
he
to that,
say?
and basically what he said was that it was because they couldn't get the actress.
The actress wasn't available.
Wasn't available.
My standout. Where are we? Is everybody on their standouts?
No. We just all shouted them.
We all shouted, Jamie.
It's chaos. Go ahead,
Sam.
Antoinette.
Okay, of course, Sam.
Yeah.
And as I said, if he doesn't get nominated, be prepared to come and bail me out. Okay? Because I
know a lawyer.
Fuss. I'm gonna kick up a fuss. So stand up. I mean, I don't want to sound flippant about it, because I've been watching TV and movies for a long time. It's something that, I studied acting way back. And I've done stage acting and stuff and that kind of stuff. So there's things that I look out for. And when you see a classically trained actor use his entire body to convey the emotions, when he stumbled out of that tent and encountered Tryon, and he was all hunched in, and then after he takes off the coat and throws it down, and he stumbles away with his hand on his heart, he didn't need to say anything. The brokenness was just portrayed through his shoulders, how he had his body, how he had... Beautiful. Katrina, that one little scene, I mean, she was good the entire episode, but that one little scene where she said, Murtaugh, my friend, for fuck's sake, She can do so much with that face of hers. It reminded me of that scene in season 3 where she said, when she and Frank were arguing, and she said that amount of time does not exist.
Yeah.
Oh, she slayed me with that performance, and she slayed me again with that. The Browns, oh my God, the two of them, genius casting. Genius casting. They are the slimiest, most evil little creatures. They're perfect. So they were my scandal. Murta, it doesn't hurt a bit to die. Oh God. Stop it, Duncan. Stop
Duncan
it.
LaCroix. He
Duncan.
just, that was his
Jesus.
hand on Jamie's face at the time too.
And he did the
Roger.
right dying eyes.
Yes,
Roger.
he did. He did the right dying eyes, and I want to say something about that. Actually, I meant to say something about
And
that.
Antoinette just had Richard as a standout.
Yes.
Wait.
I could not believe. Wait. He was very good in this episode.
Yeah, he was.
I think they're realizing that they have to try and redeem this Roger character. And I think that they really started to do the character justice. And Rick really pulled it out. I loved his scenes with Murta. I loved the scene with the four of them, and he said, I'll go. I love that. The only scene I didn't like, and it's because it was just freaking annoying, because I knew he was going to get knocked the hell out, was when he was lingering with Morag. And I wanted to say, just keep it the frick moving. This is a war. Stop talking shit.
He's the Roger.
He's a professor. What does he know about war?
Yes, but he's the
Roger.
He's the Roger from the books. Finally,
Well,
finally.
and that's believable from Roger from the books, because Roger has no family.
Yes.
So he would linger because this is family.
But you see, I was rooting for him. So even though I knew what was supposed to come from the books, I didn't want it to happen to him because I'm really, liking Roger now, and I didn't want him to get hurt.
Roger has such the worst luck, I tell you.
He does. He's Joe.
I'm gonna plug you.
Carmen, what's your dying eyes thing?
Well, last time I said, the Knox's eyes, or a couple of times ago, being wide open like that wouldn't happen because the muscles that pull the eyelids up don't function after death. So, but what happens is that they don't close their eyes completely after death. And the reason they don't is because that's another set of muscles, and they're not working either.
Right.
So the weight of the lid and the natural elasticity of there's a plate of collagen in the eyelid that helps weight it and pull it down. You can actually feel it yourself on your own. If you push it from side to side, you can feel it snap under your fingers. And that's what pulled the eyelid down. But did you see they didn't close completely? And so that was very believable to me, that he, in his expression of death.
I did. I was like, very good dying eyelids, Duncan.
As we're talking about eyes, can I just go back to that scene where Murta is dying and Jamie has his hand? Did you see how dilated Sam's eyes were? They were like oh my God.
He also, it was the same thing happened in 116 when he was in the prison. His pupil is so dilated you could barely see any iris around it. And I remember I just started on social media, and there were people who were accusing him of using drugs in his eyes. So I tweeted him and I asked him, I said, did you use anything? And he said, no. He said, ridiculous. That was all me. And if you can access your emotions correctly, you can instigate the fight, flight, terror response, and that's what that'll cause. That's a sympathetic, and it will dilate
sympathetic. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's experiencing what's going on in these scenes.
Yeah.
Yes,
which
he
is why he has to decompress afterwards, and he said so.
He says that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that that's real. I mean, it is very real.
In the
You
moment,
can't fake the pupil
exactly.
of the eye.
You cannot fake that. Your pupils dilate so that you can get more light in your eyes. So basically, if you need to be able to see better, and so you need a larger your light to enter your eyes better so that you can better fight.
Yes.
Or flee.
Yeah.
Or
whichever
flee.
the case
I mean,
may
we
be.
are animals in the food chain, so we
Yes,
still
we
have
are.
to either we have to, our job is not to get eaten,
Right.
basically. For him to be able to access that, to me, is just phenomenal. And I think
I
it
agree.
also lends itself to a dedication that people don't realize the emotional toll it takes.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I think is,
yeah.
oh my God. Because I also have some acting background, mostly theatrical dance. But in one show I discovered drugs, became a drug addict, and died of a drug overdose in the same show. And God, rehearsing that and over and over and over again, and then doing it, I used to be exhausted.
Yeah.
And I don't have, because I would just call up my own emotional history to do it. I don't have I'm not a trained actor, so I know there are other skills that you use, but I just had to, think about stuff that would pull that out of me. But it's got to be, whether you're experiencing it as Jamie or whatever, it's just got to be exhausting.
Very much so.
Because they do take after take after take after take.
Yeah.
And
And
they
also
start,
have to understand that
when they start costuming, it's still dark in the morning, and then by the time they get themselves all dressed and their makeup and wigs and everything, they've already done 3 or 4 hours before they even start shooting.
Especially for those scar scenes.
But then you have to understand that at this point, he's knowing that this is the last time he's going to be acting with Duncan.
Yes.
In this series, and they're friends. I mean, and he even said it feels like a death when someone's not there.
Yes.
He said that before, so I can't even imagine.
And Duncan is a particularly
cool guy.
dear to, I think.
I think he's a very amiable person.
He is a wonderful guy. He's just really wonderful.
Yeah, and I think he's very. I think he's an easy man to like, is my take on him.
He's a
sweetheart. I had Sophie, Tim Downey, the Browns, Richard Rankin, the costumes, the editing, and I liked the Colonel guy who was the second.
Said fire.
Yeah, and when he said they should bear that in mind
before they
I just thought he was great. I thought he was really good for such a...
I love the little cameos, the little cameo roles.
Yeah. Yeah, and Sam posted that both Tim and he have played his butler.
In those Tenant Bear commercials.
Did you have any other standouts, you two guys? Carmen?
I mean, the whole episode was a standout. So it's kind of hard.
I have to say that I thought that the look on Bree's face at the very end when she realizes that in fact it is Roger hanging there, the look on her face just broke my heart.
You see,
that was a really good expression that she conjured there.
That still look awkward when they kiss. It's just off. Their kisses always look awkward and off to me.
Well, yeah, I agree. But I think I think they've improved this.
Yeah, they've been definitely
compared to last. Last was just painful.
Yeah. Yeah, they've worked out their nose issues. Okay, let's do our big themes.
Oh God.
Catherine?
A big theme. My big theme is loyalty. Murtaugh was loyal to Jamie till the end. Jamie was loyal to Murtaugh till the end, loyal to his beliefs, loyal to being a Scot. Roger was loyal to his family. Claire was loyal to Jamie, loyal to her profession. It was just, I just felt loyalty all the way, Tryon, even loyal to his king and country, as misguided as he is. The young man, Isaiah Morton, loyal again to the fight, and to Jamie. It just seemed like there was just loyalty across the board.
Yeah,
I agree.
I could see that.
Yep.
Life is short and war sucks.
Yeah.
Well, that's what struck me. It doesn't matter what kind of war it is. War sucks.
Exactly.
And life is short. And even if you've lived a long life, it still seems, as you get older, it seems like it's going by faster every day. And it is, because a day represents a smaller segment of your life than when you're 15. Or a year when you're 15, it's 1/15 of your life. When you're my age, it's 1/77 of your life. Life is short and war sucks. It causes us people to have to do all sorts of things that they really would rather not. And when you listen to the war with this virus, you hear the same things from the people that are on the first responders and the people that are in there fighting for us. They don't want to be there any more than we would want to be there. It's just demanding things of us. So that's my
My big theme is, no matter who we are and how hard we try, thinking about Jamie, we cannot avoid loss in this life.
No.
It is a fact of being a human, but out of loss is born greater clarity in who we are and what's important to us, and ingenuity. So that was the overreaching theme for me, is just, Jamie will do anything for his family, and does. He's given himself, his body, he's done, but you still can't
avoid loss.
That's
like Queen Victoria said. I'm not Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth. After 9/11, the price we pay for love is loss.
Yeah.
That was my theme too, loss. And it's not just loss, it's just I think it's more what Carmen said in terms of the fragility of life. Tomorrow is not promised to anybody. And what Jamie said at the beginning, I am so grateful for whatever tomorrow brings.
Yeah,
I'm grateful. So it's that realization that life is precious and it is fragile, and we should be grateful.
Another theme that I thought of is that, once again, it's not a theme, but it's a current. Once again, this demonstrated that they can't change history.
Yeah.
Roger went over there with the thought that he might be able to change history, and he was not able to do it. And they're learning, the limits of having prescience about the future, but they may or may not be able to do much about it.
Yeah. Luckily, they can do things about little things, or that would be really frustrating.
Yeah, yes. That they can do.
That would be hard to live with.
Apparently, history that's written, they can't change it.
I never thought about it that way. It's,
history that's been recorded, they can't change. But because Claire says she's changing history every single day, that she changes a person's life. But that's little things that haven't been recorded in the record. And
and I didn't know if it's the size of the thing, that it's a small thing, or if it's
micro versus
big
macro
things, or the idea of that it's recorded is new to me. So that's why
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because what are the repercussions if something has been recorded? How does that? Is it like a domino effect? if you change one bit of recorded history, then everything else has to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you create a new future, right?
Exactly.
I wonder, that makes me wonder if Diana, that's never been an expressed law, but it makes me wonder if that's one of her tenets, you know?
I think it is one of her tenets, but I don't know.
Well, I think we've fully
Exhausted ourselves.
Oh, it's
dissected
a
this
pleasure to have such a wonderful episode to talk
Wasn't
about.
it?
Yeah.
I know.
It really was.
And to heap praise and to, that's what we want to do.
Yes.
Well, that's what we've done for more than, there's only been 2 that have gotten a little bit of grit from us, but the other
season,
5 have gotten pretty
this
good.
This episode should have been episode 4. This episode should have happened right after the Beardless and the baby. This should have been episode 4. And look how many more episodes we would have had to explore all of this thing with Roger and Jamie's.
No, we liked episode 4. That's the introduction of the Browns.
Episode 4.
Episode 5.
Episode 5, I mean.
That's the jumping back and forth with Claire and the.
Yes, this should have happened right after that.
I'm sold.
Yeah, but it is what
well,
it
the
is.
the other option would be for them to give us 16s.
Well, I don't think we're not gonna go back to that 16.
No, I know.
Oh yeah. Sam said they have the first scripts.
Yes,
that
he
they're
did.
looking at from season 6.
Yep.
I bet filming is going to be delayed based on.
Oh yeah, because they were supposed to start.
Oh, it has to
filming
be
in May.
now.
Yeah.
They're supposed to start filming in May. I mean, if Sam ever escapes from Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was a good place to go. I have one of my best
he's in
friends.
Hawaii. He's stuck in Hawaii.
Yeah, and one of my best friends lives there, and she's like, it's so hard to get supplies. I mean, you're on an island.
Yeah.
So
and it's not connected to England.
Yeah.
So he has to sit
like his island, you know.
I suppose he can get a flight out of there to LA. I suppose he can go back to LA.
Yeah, they're allowing. They said they're allowing flights, but they just have their people are 6 feet apart.
Yeah, you can go back to.
Oh,
LA.
so they're not selling the flights out, obviously.
No, they're purposely not selling them out.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to help because you're in an airplane where everything's recycling.
Well, the governor of Hawaii said that anybody who flies in has to be quarantined for 14 days. That happened last week.
Yeah, he was there long before the whole quarantine and all of that. Mess.
I don't think long before, maybe just before.
Just before.
I think he might be barely beyond his 14 days, but I don't know. I think he.
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely filming is going to be delayed, so the Droughtlander is going to be even longer. What the hell are we...
as long as they work on the writing and hire Steven, I'm fine with it.
Let us start a petition to fire all the other directors and have Steven direct every episode.
502 was good. 503 was good. 504 was good. I don't remember who did those. I've only had an issue with one director.
Yeah.
So far.
The 505 and 506. Yeah. Yeah.
And there are a lot of good directors from over the seasons that I'd be happy for them to bring back.
I'd love for them to bring back Mateen Hussein.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yes.
He was good. But what about
and Brandon Mull and
The Wedding?
Anna Forrester.
Yeah. Anna, yes.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh, I would love for her
to
come
Phil
back
John.
and do some of those iconic sex scenes from the book. I'm trying to think. Oh God.
Like let's reshoot the stable scene.
Yes.
That would be
Why
nice.
Are you trying to
she could do it as a dream sequence, right?
Yeah.
And then we could go back and
see it done again. One of them could dream how
it should have been.
Yeah.
Just before the stable scene happens, Claire has the dream about the white stallion and
the the dream.
Where I am the king of Ireland, and he grabs her around her neck. the mare with his teeth.
Sometimes I'm like, Diana, are you doing mushrooms or what?
Yeah.
She just has her imagination is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
It just doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. And, you know, I can
Wow.
remember reading the books for the first time. I never knew what was going to happen next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she always, you know, she always did the something you weren't expecting to have happen.
Yeah.
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 She's gifted.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna try and catch Chick-fil-A.
Okay. Love
It
you guys.
was lovely
Love
to
you
see
too.
you guys. And
See
See
you
you
soon.
next time.
that-
So, we won't have one next week. It'll be 2 weeks,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was thinking if you guys don't mind, maybe we could do 501 again. Everyone keeps asking.
I think we should do it. That'd be
I
fun.
Yeah.
am I
Keep
am
us occupied.
rewatching episodes again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
All right,
we'll be in
I'm gonna
touch.
go eat
You're falling
something.
in
I'm
love
gonna get my
with
ice cream.
with that hairy man.
No.
Raja.
Let's not go that.
Have you had any dreams, Anthony?
Yeah,
Fuck
no, that
you.